Welcome. Today we're going to be going through some introductory and some more advanced topics on Facebook. Last week we talked about how you can share and call people out, identify them so that they get notified and it prompts them to share. Today we're going to talk about using Facebook to make you better equipped going forward. So we're going to talk about how you can understand what your audience is interested in, and what they're interested in on Facebook and what they're interested in your core product may not always be exactly the same, but there's a strong correlation, and it's kind of nice to play to that. So we're going to talk about some of the information you can get there. We're going to talk about the difference between following, that is liking, and watching pages. And this has implications for you in terms of how you can analyze and monitor your competitors to see how active, how effective they are, all the types of competitors you may face. We're also going to talk about how you can use this for prospecting, for both story ideas, content, and for potentially new business, so you can keep an eye on people that you'd like to buy from you and get a sense of how to better communicate with them and hit them on the things you're really after. And then we'll wrap up with a few tech updates. So we're going to dig right in and talk about Facebook Insights. Now, there's a lot to Facebook Insights. In fact, if you go to your page and you click on the Insights tab like this arrow shows you, you're going to see something that looks like this. And at first blush, that's a lot of data to take in. I mean, how many graphs and charts and whatever. And so I'm going to focus on the things that help you make useful decisions. But I also want to highlight in just a moment that you can come to some bad conclusions if you don't fully think through what you're seeing here. And so I'll give you some examples in a minute. So when you look at this, this shows you page likes and post reach and engagement. All of these are important things. You'll notice this week we're down in one of our markets. This isn't sort of a freak out thing. You sometimes have posts that go viral. Well, that sort of raises, or you have times where posts are not going as viral and whatnot. So there's an ebb and a flow. You want to be generally trending up and to the right as it is, but don't worry about the day-to-day all that much. As you look down below, you'll also see your 5 most recent posts, and I cut this off on the screen share, but you can expand to see more. And it shows you your reach and engagement. Now, these are important because you notice there's a vastly different level of reach here. And that's strongly dictated by the level of engagement. So you'll notice the size of each of these charts are really closely corresponding. This last one was one that went up just recently, so it hasn't played out yet. And so there's lots of good stuff that you can get out of this, and start to keep an eye on, okay, what are the posts that tend to engage people more? What type of posts? What are we saying in them? What are we showing in them? And in fact, if you click on the little post icon at the top, you're going to see something that looks like this. So now this is showing you your most successful post types: photos, status updates, and links. Well, when you look at this, you go, wow, photos reach almost 4 times as many people as links. I should stop posting links. Well, that's not exactly accurate. When I get to some examples, you'll start to see why photos have a disproportionate reach. Some of it has to do with what you post with that photo. If you post a really interesting photo with a question, the odds are you're going to get a lot more engagement than just randomly posting news or information or other things. Not to mention the fact that when you share a photo or a status update, you're not necessarily driving direct traffic to your website, although, as you'll see, you can include a link in both of those. So there's useful information, and it's useful to take this and go back and sort of reverse engineer your successes so that you can be more successful in the future, so that maybe some of the techniques you're using in your photo posts, you can apply to links to get them to go further, for instance. Good information, but definitely don't take it as the only data that you need. There's a lot of other things you can look at, and it is interesting. You can see what time of day your people are most likely online for scheduling things and whatnot, but they're not the most interesting at the moment. So this is an introduction to Insights. Now I want to talk about liking pages as your page. So this is a little GIF. If you go to a business that you want to follow, and follow means you're going to like them, and they will actually show up on your page's news feed, which I'll show you in a minute, then you're not going to want to like them as you, not as Brian, but I'll want to do this in this case as Mansfield. and it'll be added to your page as things that you like. And so you can come in, you go to a given page, you go to like as your page, and select the page. I've obviously got a lot of pages to choose from in this case, but I selected the right one. Now, this does a few things. It will notify imprinting the Arlington Museum of Art that Mansfield Magazine now likes their page, and hopefully they'll reciprocate. They might even share something, but it triggers off a few other things. So I can now go to Mansfield's pages newsfeed, and I can look and see what's showing up. So you click on the little icon in the upper right-hand corner, you select the page, and now you'll see you're using Facebook as the page. And if you click the home button, you'll go to the news feed for the page as opposed to your news feed. And here's all the pages that you're following that you've liked that show up in here, and you can scroll through. Now, this is interesting to see what people are up to. It's also a good way if you're trying to drum up some content. You know, you're looking for something to cover, maybe a different take on something, or maybe you want to just show one of your advertisers a little love. It's a chance to go in there and get a glimpse of all of it at one time. And this is obviously set on a loop so that you can watch it over and over again. Now, candidly, I don't come here very often. I don't spend a ton of time here, but depending on where you're at in your editorial cycle, this is a great thing to use. And of course, the better the organizations are that you're following, the better that feed will be for you to find content and so forth. Now, there's a different variation of how you can keep track of folks. This is very granular. You can scroll through everything in the feed. But if I go and I want to use Facebook's new Pages to Watch feature. So Pages to Watch is a little more stealthy. It doesn't tell them that you're watching them, or at least doesn't tell them that it's you that's watching. You get notified that says someone is watching. But you also get sort of summary level information that is perhaps more actionable in some ways, at least in the strategic sense. So to watch a page, you go to Insights, and you scroll all the way down to the main Insights page, and you'll see a Pages to Watch section and Add Pages. Now, we just posted a video on this, so I'm going to recap some of this, but what you're seeing is a screenshot from the video, and you can add pages. And you can add any type of page. Facebook does have a requirement that you add at least 5. So you can add some pages, and they can be other publications, they can be businesses, they can be whatever. I would say, for the most part, though, you're not going to want to add everyone. You can just like them like I showed you a moment ago. But I want you to look at this graph here for a minute. And I want you to sort of take it in, and you'll see a few things. Obviously, these are organized from the pages with the most likes to the least. But there's other information here. There's information like new likes. So perhaps one of the businesses is doing a lot of promotion. They could see a big jump. That'd be interesting to know what's going on. You'll see posts this week, and you'll see a pretty big discrepancy. There's one publication here, the third item, they didn't post at all this week. So they have this audience of 1,300 people that they're not even trying to reach. I think that's interesting. You'll also see engagement this week. So the top publication has, 150% more followers than the second, but if you look at their engagement, despite posting more, their engagement is less than 10%. Why is that? What's happening here? What's going on? To answer that question, Facebook gives you some tools, and this is where you can really learn from folks. Now, what you're about to see is, I think, very interesting, and either will make you feel really good about how easy this can be or really sad about what goes viral and is most engaged with. But as I click over to some examples, here's one of their posts. It's a picture, very cool picture, shared from a photographer. It's not West PA's own photo. They literally went to Ian Davis's page and hit the share button. Now, a couple things to remember. Facebook loves images. People are scrolling through on their phone more than half the time, but also on their computer, and they're scrolling. Images catch your eye, especially cool stuff like this. So the odds of someone stopping, hitting the like button is very high. The other thing is people like quick impacts. I know that's not really proper English, but they like to see something that they can respond to very quickly. And so as I go through these examples, and you see this one, That's pretty cool. I've never been to Pittsburgh, but it looks like a pretty interesting topography. And notice the number of likes. Also notice the number of comments. Not a lot of comments, right? So one thing I'll say is don't take what you see here as successful as the only options. You should really play with some variations and how they're doing this. And you go to another one, and again, you look at the number of likes, number of comments. You're always going to have more likes than comments. That's no question, but that's pretty big disparity. And I continue. Now this one is sort of a combination, and I say the quick impacts because it's an old-timey photograph and so forth. And oh look, there's some trivia mixed in. I didn't realize that the Pittsburgh Steelers were originally called the Pittsburgh Pirates, but makes sense. So you're able to give people that, oh, I just learned something today sensation. And so that's great. Now, we saw this, we thought, that's cool. I like what their approach is. We don't have this photography in the markets that we're in yet. We're going to have to pull it together and reach out to some photographers to get samples. But here's one thing we did get. Really cool pumpkin patch picture with a rainbow, very, very pretty. And so we tied into a couple of things. We took what the West PA magazine did, but we made it our own. So we had just recently done a pumpkin patch guide for Mansfield magazine. And this came from one of them. So you can see this came from one of our pumpkin patches in our guide. Do you know where it's from? So we added this prompt, do you know where it's from, to get people to not just like, but to comment. We want comments because when Facebook decides how many people to show this to, they look at how many times the post has been clicked, liked, shared, and commented. And while they don't tell us exactly, it's pretty evident comments get the most weight because, frankly, it takes longer to comment than it does to like. So you have to be more engaged. Now, for just a little extra giggles, I put post in the comments below. Now, I wanted people to know this was not a rhetorical question. Do you know where it's from? I want you to tell us. And then I said, post in the comments below for kudos, well done, and a nice if you get it right. I was being sort of silly, but you can take whatever tone you'd like. And then I said, oh, by the way, see this link for the full guide. Now, a lot of people in Facebook, when they see this post, the pumpkin patch for the full guide will actually be sort of collapsed. You won't see it unless you hit the more button. That's okay. I'm peppering it in there so people who get engaged see it, but I want it to be about the photograph so we get engagement. I'm trying to drive up engagement to the page. And so you can see there's been 41 likes and a number of comments, and people guessed correctly that it was this particular church. So the point to all of this is that you can learn from other people and how they're executing things, and then you can sort of make it your own for your community, your style, and your publication. So this is easy stuff. And I want you to realize that you might think, well, this is sort of fluffy, and does it matter, and all this stuff? It does matter. It matters for a few reasons. The first is, when people like or share these pictures, a fair number of those people like your page. They become part of that fan base that you have. So now in the future, you're more likely to hit them with other things. The other thing is when somebody likes or shares or comments, their friends start to see this. Not all of them, but many of them will. And so it gives you better branding, and it takes it further in that regard. Plus, it makes it look like you're engaged within the community, and as a content site, that's something that's pretty good and a pretty good part of your image to put out there.
Yeah, and there's one other thing I'd like to add to that is when people start to like and comment on the things that you're posting, it's going to show up more often in their own news feed. So, this might be a little bit fluffy, but the more they comment and like on the picture, when you post something else such as a self-promotional type of thing, or you run a contest for an advertiser, they're more likely to see that in their feed at that point. So this is an important way to prime the pump, so to speak.
That's really an important piece. Facebook uses a very adaptive algorithm to decide who sees what. And they're not doing it to screw you over. They're doing it because there's just too many things being pushed at any person for them to see everything. So they have to filter it down. The way you break through that filter is people interact with you and basically tell Facebook, I want to see this. Show me more. And then when you share that news article that maybe isn't quite as naturally engaging as a pretty photograph, they're going to first have it show up in their news feed, and second, be more likely to engage with it and go to your website. So it does ultimately have a major long-term implication for you. So this is a great start, but it's not the place to finish because, there's a lot of things you can do from here. And so I want to talk about follow-on content. I want you to use this feedback that you're getting to create content and to reshare. It's a cycle. It's not a straight line. It's a spiral basically. And so I sort of said this isn't user generated content. It's user inspired content. People will say things. They'll share pictures. They'll give you tips. Use it, even if it's not the breaking news tip. If it's, hey, there's another pumpkin patch that you missed in the guide. That's great. That's great feedback. And so people love to be recognized as real people by real people and interacted with as though they're not interacting with a robot. So engage with them and keep them in the loop. And then if you've got a print product, you should be promoting these things in print. You should be putting it in print. One of our publishers has a section called Socially Speaking, where they share stuff from Facebook, even stuff that's not on their own page, just to tie in the digital notion of what they're doing and bringing it together. So I want to highlight this. So we put the pumpkin patch thing out there, and it was a very successful post. We promoted it a few times. And then we did a trunk or treat guide. Those of you who don't know, this is the one day of the year where we tell our kids to go to strangers' cars who have candy. It's very ironic, but it's become very popular because it's a little bit more contained than the normal trick-or-treating thing. And so we created this guide, and we used a picture that was submitted by a user. And we used it as the main image, and this was a web-only article. And if you look down, you'll see it was liked, and there's comments. Now, here's a couple of things. I want to sort of follow the comments in case you don't know what's happening here. So Nicole here identified Cassie in her comment. And what this does is it tells Cassie, hey, I've talked about you, come look at this. It's sort of Facebook shorthand, and a little smiley face because she's friendly. And Cassie saw this and got excited. OMG is, oh my goodness. And so she called out her friend. And I think what's happened here is these are the two moms of the two people here. And what you can't see is they say, this is so cool, and another one said, it made my night. This was a simple article that appeared online that made two readers really excited that they shared and it highlighted their kids, and it did not take very much time or effort to do it. So there's a lot of benefits and a lot of community goodwill that comes from using user-generated content, user-generated images, and so forth. And thinking back to what I just showed you about these images, sure, you should reach out and prime the pump by talking to photographers, saying like, hey, do you have any great local images? Maybe to go to the Historical Society to show old pictures of your town. And then you obviously give them credit by sharing that. But then you can keep that going and say, hey, fans, have you caught any good fall foliage pictures, any whatever? And they start to post it. And now you've got user-submitted content that you can use and create galleries and so forth, and it creates this virtuous cycle. You can get people doing the work for you because they want that social recognition. And we did another thing for Mansfield. Now, this was just a simple post, no image, but this is one of those quick impacts I was referring to. Quickpoll, what's your favorite day trip or weekend getaway in driving distance from Mansfield? So this actually was a pretty thought-out phrasing. The quick poll was literally to introduce in a millisecond what this was all about, and then we kept the question very short. It was narrow enough that if you read this and you have a favorite getaway, by the time you finish the sentence, you have the answer. But it's broad enough that you're not being painted into a corner. And so you'll quickly see some really short responses. College Station, Wildcatter Ranch, right? Those are really, really short replies. But that comment counts more than a like in terms of reaching people. And then you saw some longer ones. Bluffdale Vineyards, someone shared an actual web page and so forth. And we did interact with them. So we posted replies. You want to be interactive. So now what we're doing is we're actually creating a couple-month series where we're going to highlight weekend getaways or day trips. And then we're going to follow up with the people who suggested them and ask them for pictures, ask them for sort of color commentary beyond just the factual information about the town or location. And then when we post each of them, we're going to identify these people as being, contributors and catalysts for this. So we're partway into this particular exercise, but the point here is it can be really simple and it can have long-term implications for you. And again, if you've got a print product, once you start this and once you know you're going to be doing this, talk about, hey, we've got a 2-month day trip guide. In addition to the 8 items we're going to be posting, we'd love to hear about your favorites. And you put that in print, you put it on your website, you put it in your various materials, and let people know that they can be a part of it. So I'm going very quickly through this list of things that you can do, but if you have any questions, please do post them. I'm going to transition here and talk about the tech updates to wrap up, but Facebook is one of these things that you should be using to your advantage to grow your distribution. You know, you only have a few ways for people to find your website. They go there directly, Google, social media, and there's things that you can do that make a difference, and it's the little things that make the biggest difference. So with that in mind, changing gears, talking about some tech updates here. So we've got some improvements to our media library and the inserted content features. They're sort of subtle but substantive. So as you get in there and you're posting things, you'll see an improved experience. Family features improvements and topics. For the astute listener, you'll know that we had both of these on the list last week. We've taken both of them further. So for instance, family features now, as it gets pulled in, can be auto-published and auto-published individual topics. Topics can be used as a featured topic and category. They can be used in your sidebar here, as that is as a feed that dynamically updates on its own. And topics, while they act as subcategories, can have some other unique properties. So I would absolutely encourage you to check out the Help Center, or rather the knowledge base. There's a lot of new stuff. I've highlighted a few of them here. For those of you who have not checked this out, it's really the best place to start for a lot of simple things, whether it's you need to get a refresher on the home page and the various elements that appears there, or something very specific like what's the size of the carousel image on the home page or the main image of an article. To, okay, how do featured topics and categories work? What's this universal embeds thing I heard about but didn't do anything with, and a bunch of others. So I definitely encourage you to check that out at thelocable.zendesk.com, and you can get up to speed and see all of this stuff. It's been pretty widely updated, so most, if not everything, should be current with recent updates. All right. Looking ahead, so next week we've got a detailed family features conversation with some folks at Family Features. So excited about that. Family Features content, if you hadn't heard, is new content that's freely available for you that's much more lifestyle, so health, wellness, food, family, travel, those sorts of things. There's some unique capabilities that the system now has to support that, publishing a la carte pieces or auto-publishing, and they show up every Monday, somewhere between 8 and 20 articles on a given week. They're going to join us next week to share some tips on localizing the content so that it does have a very local and relevant feel, as well as just a general deep dive into it. And then looking forward, we're going to be doing some step-by-step content planning. While this is going to specifically be targeting our print publishers to better tie in print and digital, there's going to be some stuff in there that's going to be good for our web-only publishers as well. In all cases, the websites and the content we produce, or rather our publishers produce, gets to be very reactive to the current situation. And we want to make sure that there's enough planning and activity that you're really sort of getting an efficiency going. At least for the things, I mean, breaking news is breaking news, but there's stories and there's concepts and there's story arcs that you can create and sell sponsorships for that we want to make sure that you're doing that. And then we'll also be doing Broad Street training. So last week we mentioned, again, the switch in the ad server is coming. It should be coming this week. We got the final updates we needed from Broad Street, and we're making the tweaks and finalizing our testing. And so look for that. When it happens, there's going to be some pretty big changes. You're going to be able to post your own ads directly. And so please, please, please be reading the emails that you get from us. All right, with that, Ryan will wrap up the recording, and we'll field any questions that you might have.